Here's a brutal truth that'll either make or break your Amazon business today. You could have the best product in the world, but if nobody is clicking, your product is virtually invisible. And right now, while you're watching this video, thousands and thousands of buyers could potentially be just scrolling past your product and never giving it the time of day. And what's the one thing that's going to help you on Amazon scale your business? It's your CTR, your click-through rate, and getting that click. Because if you're not getting the click, you're not getting the sale. What's going on, guys? John Aspinall, brand evangelist here at PickFu. And if you're not familiar with PickFu, we're an online testing platform that allows you to get instant feedback on all your product ideas, main images, listings, logos, landing pages, pretty much anything and everything. You can test it with PickFu, but not just test it with real audiences and real customers and getting their actual meaningful feedback, because data without actioning on it is pretty much worthless. So instead of relying on your gut or your instinct, use the data. So when we're talking about click-through rate and CTR, it's one of the biggest things that affects your business, but it's also probably one of the easiest and quickest things that you can do in order to move and pivot. Because if you think about it, if you need more inventory, that takes time. If you have to redo your listing completely for SEO, that takes a lot of time and energy. If you need to spend more money on ads, that's very costly and also takes time and energy. But with your main hero image, that's something you can affect today. Like right now, pretty much 75% of it. There's some things I'm going to show you that affect your CTR that you can't change, but for the most part, you can change your main hero image today and change the trajectory of your business. So let's get into what really matters with CTR. There's lots of different ways you can affect your CTR in Amazon. Your main hero image is the biggest one that you can be affecting, but there are other factors for your click-through rate, such as coupons, your pricing, your reviews, your fulfillment method, your title. All these things play into whether you're getting the click or not from the search engine result page, because that's where everybody's starting their search. Is they're searching something and you're getting hit with a list of all these different things, but visually it's going to be the main hero image. But like I said, those other different factors do come into play. And these are all things you could be testing on PickFu. In this video, I'm going to show you exactly how you can be doing all that and different tips and tricks along the way. So rather than me sit here and just go on and on and on, let's hop into an example product that I want to pull up, who actually is a very big PickFu power user, and show you exactly on their listing where you could be affecting your CTR. Okay, guys, so I wanted to go to one of my favorite brands that's a PickFu user, which is MaryRuth's. And you can see their fantastic brand ads up here and their sponsored product ads and into their products. But I didn't go right into the listing right away. What I did was just search liquid multivitamin, because I want to show you exactly why certain elements of CTR matter more. So when you see MaryRuth's down here, they have the packaging behind the bottle, but there's a lot more to it. So when you take a look over here, they're saying sugar-free, and they actually have the packaging that says all of the benefits for each of the products. Now compare that to other folks that are on the search engine result page, like Nature's Way, Now, and Passion Health. They are offering a similar, comparable, at least product-wise, a liquid multivitamin. Now, what they're not doing is they're not saying more on that packaging. Now, that's a hot tip that you can be using to affect your CTR today, because you can see over here, they're taking up more room in the image versus the competition by saying it's a liquid multivitamin and here's where it's going to be able to help you. Whereas over here, I'm not sure about that. So that's why the main hero image is so important. Now, when you go into the title, which is the next thing that would affect the click-through rate, when you look over here, it says women, men, and kids, liquid morning multivitamin. Now over here, it does say liquid vitamin and liquid multivitamin. But you see how these guys are saying men, women, teens, kids? Otherwise over here, I don't know who it's for. It's not saying specifically who the avatar is for. That could also play into your click-through rate. And the other thing is your reviews. So if you're looking at the star reviews down here, of course, MaryRuth is crushing it. So you have thousands, tens of thousands of reviews. But if you don't, you want to take a look at your competition and see what their review count is, because that definitely does weigh pretty heavily when someone's shopping on Amazon to see if it's worth their time and worth their energy to click and learn more. Now, the next thing for the click-through rate is going to be price point. So you can see MaryRuth's is substantially more expensive, at least than the Now and the Nature's Way, but they're still crushing it because they have a great brand. That being said, when you look over here, if this was your competition down here, let's take MaryRuth's out of the equation. Now, when we look over here, it's 44, 59, 12, 41, 37. If you're a premium price point product, you want to be able to say exactly what that customer wants in the image. So if you're saying more, if you're showing more, the more transparency that you can give, that's going to help people say, okay, it's $59, but it's doing all these different things that are exactly what I need or exactly what I want. When you're a higher price point and you don't say enough, then people start to wonder if it's really a value and they're just going to go with the cheapest thing. There's also the audience that's just going to go for the cheapest thing just because that's their demographic, that's their space. If they're based on PickFu, if they're a 0 to 35 or 30K annual income household, they might not be able to afford a $50 product. And that's okay because that's probably not your customer anyway. But let's go ahead and take a look directly at MaryRuth's actual product a little bit closer. So you can see here, sugar-free, vitamin C and D3. You see how what they're doing is they're having the packaging behind it. It's really real. And this is not just a one-off kind of thing. If we go to their listing here, they do this with pretty much all of their products. So one really powerful one is the 2-month supply. That's really powerful because even though it's 60 gummies, it doesn't really mean anything unless you tell me, is it 1 gummy, 2 gummies, 4 gummies a day? If I hop back over here, and I want to keep that in mind for a second. If we look at supplements gummies, very kind of vague search, you'll see that a lot of people are talking about how many they have. So 28 packs, 90 gummies, they're going into 60 gummies. But if you notice, no one's really telling on the main hero image exactly what that means. It could be 60 gummies, but if I have to take 10 a day, it's only 6 days supply. So it's not a huge value prop. Or if it's 90 gummies, is it 1 gummy a day and that's a 3-month supply? The more you make it easier for the consumer to make a purchase, the better it's going to be. I'm not saying MaryRuth is doing a bad job at all. They're crushing it. But if you take a look at some other stuff over here, showing the actual ingredient, showing the actual product outside of the packaging is going to be another thing that you would want to do. So any sort of flavor profiles, any sort of, if it's a gummy, if it's a liquid, if it's a chewable, that helps with transparency. So you can see a lot of folks are doing that over here. So you see all these fruits and vegetables for ingredients. This takes up room on the search engine result page. Now, another call out that I just saw over here that's going to help with your main image optimization for CTR is if the product is made in the US. So if the product's made in the US, that red, white, and blue made in the USA or made in America is a scroll stopper. So especially for something that's very consumable, and I don't know if MaryRuth's actually showcasing that. They're not right now, but they're an email away, so I can always ping them and see if they want to test that and see. But they're already crushing it. That's the thing. When you scroll down over here, I don't know where the product is made. So if it is made in the US, that's something, again, you also want to test on PickFu to see if that matters to your consumer. If it doesn't matter to your consumer and they are like, it doesn't matter to me, well, then you don't want to do it. But if people are leaning towards made in the US over not, that's something very powerful that you'd want to add to increase your click-through rate. I always see when it's, perfect example, force factor, sugar-free, 2-month supply, showing the gummy outside. But what they're not doing is they're not showing that it's apple as strongly as they could. So a lot of good ways that you can be increasing your CTR. Now, it doesn't have to be just in gummies. So this can be in something very utilitarian like pack of screws. I'm going to go completely the other spectrum. So when you look at these over here, if you're in the industrial commercial space, you have no idea looking at this how many pieces there are. You're only going to have it in the title. But if you were to, perfect example, here, 570 pieces. That's going to win the click for me because that's going to tell me exactly what it is. This one down here is 2,251. That's really powerful, but it's very, very small. So these are things that you want to test and see. If I add 108 pieces, is that going to be a value? Now, sometimes people might think if I do that, the guy that's 132 pieces is a better value than me. I don't want to accent that. Well, data's proven otherwise because if you put 108 and they don't put 132, well, then the customer clearly, you're giving more data and more information and more value to the customer, even if you're less pieces. So that's going to help them shop easier and make the purchase. So don't always be shying away from if you're less pieces than the competitor. But you could see here that this is definitely a space that would benefit from that. Now let's take a look at some example PickFu polls where I show this a little bit further and where it's going to make a little bit more sense as far as affecting your hero image. So in this example, this is a ranked poll. So basically this is a ruck backpack and we're looking to optimize the main hero image. So we're not sure, is it better to put the tag with the product open, the tag with the product open with a different logo on the packaging, no tag, product not open, and just showing the back straps, and many different iterations of that. But you could see here the winner, based on this smaller poll that was targeted towards Prime members that were men that did high impact training, that they preferred this one. And the reason they prefer this one is because it's giving more value. The rest of them over here, you're not seeing the inside of the bag. You're seeing the outside, but you're not seeing the inside of the bag. So when we go down here, we can see it's informative. I prefer the brand without the stitching. I want to see the inside. It's very important. The lining is very eye-catching. I want to see the inside easier. But the interesting thing with this one is while this one got the most votes, this one, at least in that demographic, was second, quote unquote, but they didn't like the logo. So if you noticed in a lot of the choices, the ones without the logo had a little bit more weight and a little bit more responses. But overall, this was the one because it gave the most information. So that's what you can be doing. You'll be taking your image and different iterations of yours or your image against the competitors and seeing which ones people prefer. That allows you to rinse and repeat and iterate over and over and over again. Let's take a look at another example. Same idea with this one, the Ruck backpack again. So this is a different way you can test your CTR. So kind of a cool way. So with this way, what we're doing is loading in one image as a click test with all the different iterations on it. So in this way, we're able to actually see where people are clicking on with just one image as opposed to different images. So you can see over here, this is still the winner. This got 9 clicks versus the exact same one with the logo only got 5 clicks. So you could see that the logo is a little bit polarizing for people. They want it to be dark, a little bit subdued. But if you look at the one with the logo without the opening of the packaging or the bag, no one's going for it. So it's another way with a click test that you can be testing your hero image. Let's take a look at a couple more. So this is another click test, but it's a little bit of a different way. This is, instead of iterations, these are your competitors. So let's say that you were this mattress bag company over here, and now you are showing up on the search engine result page. So you take a screenshot of it and we're putting it in here. We want to see, is it the price? Is it the title? Is it the image? Like, is it the lifestyle image that people like? Is it more of the packaging that people like? So this is a way, instead of your iterations, you could be testing against the competition kind of live against what it's looking like for consumers on the search engine result page on Amazon. This is another ranked poll for beef tallow. So with something like this, you want to test and see, is that made in the USA badge going to be as compelling versus not having it versus having it a lot smaller down here? So there's a lot of different elements in play here. With this one, it's not different iterations of your own product. It's you versus your competitor. Now you could be doing this if you're coming to launch a product and you want to have the best hero image, or if you're wanting to see, hey, why is this guy crushing it over me? And we could see that in the data down here with the winner, which is in this poll B. They like the grass-fed formula. They like the wooden cap. They like the wooden lid. They like the USA. Oh, actually, the Made in the USA callouts are a turnoff in the last two, even though I like the labels. So in this demographic, 45 to 54-year-old female, 0 to 35K, wasn't a fan of the Made in the USA. So that's why she went with this one, even though she liked the labels, which is very interesting. The tree looks fancy. I lean towards American-made products. So the lean towards American-made products, and this one doesn't say made in America, which is kind of interesting. The grass-fed tallow is what I would buy. Also sensitive skin, grass-fed sensitive skin. So you could see for women that were Prime subscribers, when it comes to a beef tallow or a tallow balm product, showcasing sensitive skin, showcasing grass-fed tallow is super important to them. Now, the other ones over here aren't saying that. So we can see whether we're this one, A, C, or D, that we probably want to incorporate elements of the grass-fed tallow and the sensitive skin because that's important to the avatar. So it's a great way for you to increase your CTR, because if you were holy cow over here and you were grass-fed and you were for sensitive skin, if you were to just add those, you'd probably win this poll. You're going to win the click and you're going to potentially win the sale. Lastly, here's a really good one to show multiple different functions. So this is another click test on the search engine result page, but it's really important to point out the price point. So price point, reviews, title, and actually the image. So you can see here, this second one. So you can see here, this second one right here, and this fourth one, very, very, very similar in products. But the reason that this one is getting the majority of the clicks is not the price point. It's because it's talking about different colors. And when I actually went a little bit further on this one, the second one over here that didn't get a lot of clicks, actually does multiple colors like this one. But you could see here, because it's showing that, RGB colorway styles from the main hero image, that's clear, like crystal clear, where people know about that. But when this one doesn't show it, but it actually has that feature, they're not getting the clicks. Fun fact, all of these actually on here can do multiple colors. But what happens is people get a little bogged down in the fact that understanding red light therapy has very, very high search volume. But when something has very high search volume and everyone looks the same and you don't stand out, then you're in a sea of products and you're never getting the click. So that's why something like this is going to help you with your CTR. And the fact too is that, take a look over here. This one says 7-in-1 colors. This says 7 colors. So the title says it the same. Even though this one has more reviews than this one has more units sold, but this one's winning the click. So what does that mean? That means that potentially there's a conversion issue, which is a topic for another video, but this is a great starting point to understand exactly how you should affect your CTR on Amazon today. Now, last thing here. So lastly, what could we be doing better if this is the one we wanted to focus on? Well, we definitely want to add the RGB multiple colors over here, but that packaging behind, remember the MaryRuth's example, packaging is very, very key. So the packaging over here is very, very stark and it's not saying anything. And also showcasing an avatar is not something that is cracked down on too much on Amazon in this category. So showing an avatar, showing multiple colors, showing actual written terms on the packaging, regardless if it's actually being sent out like that. These are all ways to capitalize on your CTR, on your main hero image, and crush it on Amazon. But don't forget, you always, always, always want to test this on PickFu, because you will never know what's going to work for your audience until you ask them. So that's it, guys. That's pretty much a full wraparound of everything click-through rate on Amazon and how you could be testing it on PickFu. Look, optimizing CTR isn't really just about getting the clicks. It's about unlocking Amazon's algorithm to work for you, understanding what's going to work, what's not going to work. Every click that you earn teaches Amazon's algorithm need to get more visibility. Here's your next move. Head on over to pickfu.com and get your first poll started today. Test one element that's killing your CTR right now. Test your main hero image, test your pricing strategy, test your title, test anything I really just spoke about today. And because you made it to the end of this video, go on and use coupon code YouTube, YOUTUBE, for 50% off of your first poll. I've seen dozens of brands change the trajectory of their business from just affecting their click-through rate. Because if your conversion rate stays the same and your click-through rate increases, basic math shows you make more money. That's the power of data-driven optimization versus your gut instinct and hoping and praying that something's going to change. Remember, while your competitors are out there guessing and hoping and crossing their fingers, you're going to be crushing it because you're optimizing based on the data. We'll see you guys in the next video.